Member Idanis Rodriguez is my brother, and we have been in a foxhole, as many of you know, for the last year, very closely working together. There are so many progressive ideas right now that are on the table in terms of voting rights acts and things that we're going to do to empower communities of color. We've seen that most recently with ranked choice voting. In the last ranked choice voting mayoral election, we had an African-American man, Eric Adams, won the primary night with 30.7% of the vote, Maya Wiley with 21.4% of the vote, and Garcia with 19% of the vote. But we saw through a ranked choice voting process, Eric Adams wound up winning by 50.4% and Garcia by 49.6%. So what we're seeing in that is we had an extraordinary experience of Eric Adams and Maya Wiley coming in first and second in a mayoral race in New York City. This was historic. But through a process, had it have been successful, the third place white woman candidate could have beat both the African-American man and the African-American woman through a process called ranked choice voting that was supposed to empower black communities. And if it had been successful, it would have done just that. It would have taken out the two winning African-American candidates. We are in a process right now. We've just completed a census. Redistricting is happening. Our communities and the composition of our communities are changing. And for me, with this particular legislation, I'm concerned, as Councilmember Cornegy talked about, where do African-American voters fit in? And we're not just talking about some sort of ethnic group. We are talking about the people for the last century who have protested, who have been on the front lines, who have died, who have been lynched, who have given their lives and shed blood, sweat, and tears, as we saw on the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday. We are the people that are fighting for the rights for all people. I want everybody in this room to recognize that if not for the sacrifice of African-American people, the vast majority of people in this room would not have the right to vote. You would not be able to have the right to vote. You would not be able to hold the seats that many of you hold here if it had not been for African Americans. So it's critical when we're passing all of these progressive measures of legislation that we recognize the African American contribution to making it possible. This is essentially, in many ways, this particular legislation is going to shift the power dynamics in New York City in a major way. And we do not have the numbers or the information to know how that is going to impact African American communities who have been the most vulnerable in their existence in New York City. Gentrification has taken root in our communities. Our businesses have been taken over, our homes have been taken over, our schools have been co-located. The only thing that many African American communities have left are their black representatives and representation. This bill, in many of our communities, in areas such as Upper Harlem and otherwise, are going to be dramatically changed. Because we are all black and brown, in other races, doesn't mean that we all share the same values and principles and that we're all going to vote and do things in the same way. This measure will also change some districts, Republican to Democratic, Democratic to Republican. This is going to change our communities in a major way. And I'll just conclude by saying the 30 days, do you know how long African Americans had to fight to no longer be considered 3/5 of a man? We had to fight so hard just to be considered a whole person in this area. And we would then say, in many ways, that someone could be here for 30 days. There are different classifications of a green card. Not all green cards take 5 to 7 years. Some of them you get temporarily, immediately. And we are not discussing those temporary green cards at all. So I think it's important that we continue to have this discussion. And again, as the majority leader, I just want to close with saying in this body, we should never shy away from wanting to ask questions. We should never shy away from wanting more information. We should never shy away from wanting to be able to make a bill better. We can't continue with the expediency or the fear that we're going to be canceled if we even are known to have asked for more information or for more questions or to want to make something better. That culture needs to end in order for us to produce better bills, to be more comprehensive, and to make sure that everybody is included in the bills that we are pushing forward. I've never heard in this one discussion about how the African American voter is going to be impacted by this bill. This is going to be a great win for the ethnic groups that are going to be the highest number in the city of New York. And so, Adonis, this is your legacy. This is yours. And this is going to be a huge win numerically for the Dominican Republic community. And I applaud you for that. We're all here to support our ethnic groups, and we're all here to make sure that we all win. But I need to know, in supporting this, which I need more time, how are African Americans going to be impacted? Because that's the community I come from. I'm clear how the Dominican Republic community will benefit, but not the African American community. And it's only fair that I know that information. Thank you. Councilmember Grodenchik.
The mic's not on.
Thank you, Majority Leader Cumbo, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues. I want to congratulate Adonis Rodriguez for this legislation. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I've known Adonis for 6 years since I entered the council. I know he's passionate, and I know that Danny Drum, my dear friend of many years, is passionate about this. I got up to speak because race was injected into this debate today. And I have to tell you, I resent that. I truly resent that. I represent one of the most diverse districts in the city of New York. I am a product of New York City. I was born in the Bronx. I was raised in New York City public housing in Queens. And I have been blessed to be a public school graduate here and a graduate of the State University of New York. And I want to tell you about my experience. My grandfather came here about this time in 1903. He was fleeing oppression, and he was not seen as a white guy in Tsarist Russia. He was seen as a Jew. And my grandmother came, and they were married in Margaret Chin's district in 1907. And my grandparents, the other grandparents, came from the Polish part of the Austrian-Hungary Empire in 1912. And I'm grateful that they did, because the truth of the matter is that the rest of my family was murdered by the Nazis. Yermak Shimo, may their name be obliterated. And I stand here today in my last few weeks of my public service career to say that this bill should be debated on the merits. I have represented a majority, almost majority Asian American district. I have worked with Latinos and blacks and people from all across the world who came to this city because they wanted one thing. They wanted freedom. Just a few more seconds, Madam Majority Leader. Thank you. So to me, I don't think that you should vote unless you're a citizen. That's what I've held for a long time. And I respect everybody's opinion here. But I just want people to know my story, that I would not be alive if we were in the other country, because in the other country, Jews were viewed as subhuman. Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your story. Councilmember Gennaro, followed by Councilmember Traeger.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. I wish to be associated with your good remarks on this bill. I guess I have two things to mention, and this is something that I mentioned to the sponsor of the bill. To me, there's a fundamental unfairness that is introduced when you tell a resident of New York City, a permanent resident, that they now will be bestowed with the privilege of voting for local government officials, but they don't have the ability to run for those offices. So we're telling them that they're good enough to vote, but not good enough to hold office. They're good enough to vote for mayor, but not be mayor. And to me, that's, kind of like a caste system there. And so I think this is one of the fundamental, here we're trying to argue about debate about what's fair, but, to me, it's, that's a fundamental unfairness which is built in, to be told somebody that you can vote, you can do that, but you can't, you can't run for office. And cynics would say this could be an attempt for people to say, look, we're looking for permanent residents to vote for us, but you don't get a chance to run against us. And that's a problem for me. And also fundamentally, I and everyone in this body took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the state of New York. And this, no matter how you feel about it, certainly on its face violates the Constitution of the state of New York. And voting for this would be a violation of my oath of office to uphold the Constitution of the state of New York. Thank you, Madam Majority.
Thank you so much. We'll now hear from Councilmember Traeger.
Thank you, Majority Leader. We've heard quite a bit. I speak as a proud son of immigrants, grandson of immigrants, and I want to offer a unique perspective that I have not heard so far today. When the vote came before the council in the last term about the city ID cards, myself and I believe also Councilmember Mizell abstained. And the reason for that was because I asked specific questions about who had access to the information of the residents that would apply for the cards. And that was before the election of Trump. And I was told, Councilmember, your questions and your concerns are being overblown. And later, with the election of President Trump, that became a major issue in New York because they went after that information. And so I heard someone say earlier that the Trump era is over. I beg to disagree. He no longer is president, but there are people in power who absolutely continue that Trump legacy and those Trump policies. And there are serious questions about the Board of Elections capacity. Who will be responsible to verify paperwork? If residents ask, is my information safe? Who will be privy to it? The same Board of Elections that still has people who have been dead for years on their rolls will be privy and be responsible to process very sensitive, important, critical information. And can any of us say with a straight face that their information will not be compromised? And I also want to say for the record, that as the first Russian-speaking official in New York City history, according to what I've been told, when I asked the city to pass a law to require interpreters for not just Russian-speaking residents, but other languages, I was told that we didn't have the authority. I was told that we did not have the authority to get interpreters at poll sites to assist voters. So I wanted to offer those perspectives on the record, Majority Leader. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Traeger. Councilmember Caban.
Yeah? Oops, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. I was not expecting to speak on my first day in chambers with y'all, but I feel really, really strongly about this. When I took office, the first piece of legislation I signed on to was this one. I stood on the steps with all of the advocates and directly impacted folks earlier this morning and said, in full sincerity that there is not one piece of legislation before this body at this moment that does more to expand democracy and to lift up the folks of the people that make this city what it is. Expanding the right to vote for some folks does not in any way diminish or tarnish the right to vote for other folks. Yes, I understand that amongst our communities, we have different experiences, different struggles, but what anchors all vulnerable communities, whether you are Black, brown, the disability community, whether you are queer, the intersection of any marginalized identity that these systems were not made for, what anchors us in those struggles are so common and the same. And it is really divisive to say that our power as one specific community would be watered down by extending the right to allow other voices into our halls of power. This is about making sure that every single person in our city that contributes to our way of life and living has a voice and a vote. And the only way to do that, is to allow folks the power to step into the voting booth and exercise that right. You can't just say that we as elected officials, we're just gonna look out for you. Don't worry, we got you. You don't need to vote for us to be able to do that. It's nonsense, and we know it. Generation after generation, we have seen our people be left behind because they have not had that power. So I am grateful for Council Member Ydanis Rodriguez and stand firmly with him and the rest of the coalition to say that we need to pass this, and we need to pass this now. We should not be waiting another decade, another minute to get this done. Thank you all.
Councilmember Ydanis Rodriguez.
At the hearing on government operation, I couldn't control my emotion because I came here to wash dishes at O. Henry Restaurant at West 4th and 6th Avenue. To speak to. And then, now it's a Capital Bank when I pass by. And then my second job was working at Food Concept Corporation, a cafeteria inside 2 Broadway. So when I have been at Water Street, having meeting with the DOT commissioner, and it's those days that my daughter don't have school, I walk by and sit in the front. And I share with them that reality. So this is different from all the bill about regulating how people vote, right? This is not about amending anything that we have different interpretation. This is about how the city of New York had the responsibility to go back to our New York State Constitution of 1777 that allowed people, no citizen, to vote. And that works. And that period of time were longer, as Public Advocate Jumaane Williams stated today. People voting without being citizens than people not being allowed to vote because they're not citizens. How did it happen? When did it happen? What fear does it bring? Go to Texas. See what's going on there. Why are they passing legislation to secure, to be sure that they will establish that non-citizen will not able to vote? Because the federal law of our country established that in order to vote in federal election, president by president, members of the House of Representatives, senator, it is a must to be a citizen. But what my colleague, good friend Borelli, that even though we don't agree with this, he's my good friend, and we do a lot of work together, and we have a lot of respect to each other, disagrees that the New York State Constitution never used the word only when they talk about citizens have the right to vote. They don't use the word only. You don't find it. And that's the caveat. That's the piece that the academic read at the Washington Post story today. Hear from the academic what are they saying? That we have the right to do it. So it's interesting that besides 2 or 3 colleagues, right, that took the floor to address the 30 days, right? The rest, sorry to my Trump supporters, didn't address the 30 days. They've been speaking about why we should not pass this bill. So they will not be voting for this bill. This is a Democratic agenda. This is about we showing Texas, San Antonio, Colorado, other states, how we do business. What is democracy all about it? That's what we're doing. My good friend, speaker, majority speaker, you have a great conversation with Berta Lewis from the Black Institute. And she showed the number to you. And she showed to you that close to 400,000 new voters are black. They come from Nigeria, they come from Mali, they come from Ghana, they are Garifano, they are Haitian, they are Jamaican, close to 400,000. And for those that want to bring fears on the 30 days, let me give you a number. From the close to 1 million new voters, right now 800,000 number is the number that we're using, 500,000 are individuals that have green cards. So for those that want to bring fear about the undocumented, my brother, there was the undocumented who stayed in New York City, working at the deli, working in supermarket. They did the same job that I did from 83 to 2000 when I had a green card, and I worked at O. Henry Restaurant, in the cafeteria, driving a taxi, being at City College, organizing the students, persuading Mario Cuomo not to increase tuition and cut the budget, graduating from City College, and being a teacher from 93 to 2000, a co-founder to school. I did it with green card. I don't want to challenge anyone who believes that the U.S. citizen is to give a higher level. Because I compare myself. When did we come to this conclusion? When? Go to Netflix, look like a movies, and think about a place in this world where human beings are living together. And a group is telling the other, you are here for years, working hard, paying your taxes, and you don't have the right to elect your leader? For God's sake.
Y Danis.
Let's get it done. Let's vote no on this amendment. Sí se puede.
Madam Majority Leader.
We will now take a roll call vote. Yes, Speaker Corey Johnson.
There has been a robust and lively debate on the floor of the New York City Council. It doesn't happen often here, but I'm glad we're having this debate. And all I want to say is today needs to be a historic day for our city and for our country. This is the right thing to do. Let's not get distracted. Let's get this done. I implore all of my colleagues and friends to vote no on this motion to recommit, to vote no on any amendment. Let's get to the bill and let's approve it. Thank you very much. I ask for a roll call vote on Councilmember Jonai's motion to recommit.
Thank you, Speaker Johnson.
Adams.
Excuse me? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Madam Majority Leader. Respectfully welcoming our newest members, Council Members Caban and our Council Member Inna and Council Member Carr. Welcome to the New York City Council. We are experiencing an amazing day today, and for that, I congratulate all of my colleagues for the spirited debate. Mr. Speaker, I only rise to express my opinion. 12 years is too long for any piece of legislation to languish, particularly a piece of legislation that affects thousands upon thousands of people who pay taxes in the city of New York, that contribute to our well-being as citizens of the city of New York. And for one who will be returning in January as a member of this amazing body, what I say to my colleagues is that 12 years is 12 years too long for this legislation. We must make this happen today, and for those of us returning in January, it will be incumbent upon us to amend this legislation if we deem so necessary. I vote aye. I vote no on the amendment, but I will vote aye on the bill.
You vote, hold on, it's not the amendment. You vote no on the motion to recommit. You vote no on the motion to recommit.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I do vote no on the motion to recommit respectfully
Thank you,
to my
Councilman.
amazing colleague, Councilmember Jonah.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams.
Thank you. Ampry Samuel.
I vote no.
Ayala.
Everyone at this time needs to vote at the microphone.
I vote no.
Thank you.
Barron.
Thank you. I vote no on this motion to recommit. We cannot disenfranchise and deny people who are entitled to vote the opportunity to vote in local elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Brannan. Councilmember Brannan. Brooks Powers.
We'll come back.
Caban.
I vote no.
Cabrera. Carr.
I vote yes.
Chin.
I vote no.
Like Cornegie.
Yes.
Dharma Diaz.
I vote no.
Ruben Diaz.
Permission to explain my vote?
Permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This black guy with kinky hair and a broken English from Bayamon, Puerto Rico, is a U.S. citizen. But when I go to Puerto Rico, being a U.S. citizen, I cannot vote for the President of the United States because the Constitution, because the law requires so. So, and when I got elected as a council member, I swear with my hand in the Bible to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. So today I cannot vote against the Constitution, even though the bill sounds good, has the good qualities, and a humanitarian thing, but this black guy with kinky hair, broken English from Bayamon, Puerto Rico, is voting yes in this amendment.
Dinowitz.
I first just want to thank every single person who spoke on this for speaking from the heart, and I want to say I deeply respect everyone's view and respect everyone for sharing their thoughts. I vote no on the motion to recommit.
Drum.
I vote no on the motion because I support my immigrant constituents.
Eugene.
I vote no.
Thank you. Feliz.
I vote no.
Thank you. Gennaro.
Aye.
Gibson.
I vote no.
Thank you. Jonai.
Aye.
Thank you. Grodenchik.
Aye.
Holden.
I vote aye.
Kalos.
No.
Koo.
I vote no to the amendment.
Yes.
Wait, how did he vote? Councilmember Koo, how did you vote, yes or no?
I vote no to the amendment.
Thank you, Councilmember Koo. Kozlowitz.
No.
Lander.
You couldn't hear me?
Councilmember Lander.
That wasn't loud enough. I vote no.
Thank you. Brannan.
No.
Levin.
No on the motion to recommit.
Levine. Lewis.
I vote no, and I'm hoping when the incoming class comes in that we can do this the right way, implementing it the right way.
Mizell.
Yes.
Menchaca.
In the name of restoring rights, voting rights to our New Yorkers, I vote no on the motion.
Miller.
Nay.
Thank you. Moya. Perkins. Powers.
No.
Reynoso.
No.
Thank you. Riley.
No.
Thank you. Rivera.
I vote no.
Rodriguez.
I vote no, and for clarification, Councilmember Diaz was signing on this bill and he was running for Congress, but I vote no on this.
Rose.
Permission to explain my vote.
Permission granted.
Thank you. I want to say that this is one of the few times I've been here 12 years that I've seen such spirited debate. I came to the floor with a notion to vote a certain way. And so I appreciate the debate and all the thoughtful comments that were made by my colleagues. I am going to vote no for this motion, but it is with reservation, because I do feel that 30 days is not a sufficient amount of time to be invested in this country and the city. And so I'm voting against the amendment after hearing much of the debate. But I do hope that when this passes, and I know it will pass, that we will look at making sure that people who vote, and I'm not talking about the people who are here now who have green cards, but people who come here really have a vested interest, and that this not be used to for other purposes. So I'm voting no.
Thank you, Councilmember Rose.
Rosenthal.
I vote no.
Salamanca.
I vote no.
Traeger.
I vote no on the motion.
Ulrich.
I vote yes on the motion to recommit.
Vallone.
Yes on the motion.
Van Bramer.
On behalf of the people of Woodside, Sunnyside, Long Island City, and Astoria, and in memory of my grandmother, I am proud to vote no.
Vernikov.
I vote yes on the motion.
Thank you. Yeager.
Madam President, may I be excused to explain my vote?
Permission granted.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You know, we don't get to debate often enough in the council, I believe. My colleagues who are here for 12 years probably agree with me. I'm only here 4 years, and I've had more debate when I was on a community board than I've had here. So I appreciate the chance to do this. I'll say a number of things. First of all, you know, this was a motion to send it back to a committee. It's not a motion about whether or not you want immigrants to vote or not vote or any of that. But it became important during the course of this debate that everybody has to discuss their personal story. So my story, because I've said this before on this floor, my father came here on a boat with his parents and his older brothers. My 4 grandparents, none of whom were born here, in various trips escaped the atrocities of Nazi Germany from various places, from Poland, from Lithuania, from Russia. One of my grandfathers made his way from Russia over the water into Japan, where he was able to live for a few days, until he was able to move to China, to Shanghai, where he stayed for several years before being welcomed into the United States. They didn't have the right to vote. This is not about their right to vote. None of them have seen me be elected. They never missed an election, by the way, after they became citizens. But none of them saw me elected. They weren't alive. My grandmother was. She was actually my constituent until she passed away a year ago. So one of my grandparents did see it. It's an American dream, the right to vote. This debate now was not about the right to vote. It was about a motion to send it back to a committee. So what happens here in the council? We know the rule, because we've seen it for the last 4 years. I've seen it for a long time in politics. Whoever doesn't agree with you must be a racist. Must be. Has to be. You don't agree with me? You love white power. You has to be. You don't agree with me? You're a Trumpist. You don't agree with me? It's because you hate Latinos. 20 years ago, when I was working for the historic campaign of a candidate for mayor of New York who was of Puerto Rican descent, the gentleman who just referenced another member of this body's support for this bill was supporting the Jewish candidate 20 years ago, when I was supporting Fernando Ferrer and the gentleman was supporting Mark Green. Don't come here and tell us that we're racist because we don't agree with you. When have I ever said that to you? When has anybody who's on the other side of you ever said that to you or anybody else? It happens all the time. Mr. Speaker, you know, you've seen it for the last 4 years. It happens all the time. Don't agree with me? You're a racist. You're a Trumpist. You're this, you're that. How about I just have a policy difference? How about I read the Constitution, I went to law school, just like the lawyers in this council, and I read the Constitution and it means something to me? No. Has to be we're racist. Has to be. You're leaving the council in 20 days. It's a chance to stand up and say, you know, maybe not everybody who disagrees with me is racist. I know not everybody who disagrees with me is racist, and I'll say that. So with that, I vote aye on the motion to send it back to the committee, which I'm proud to serve, and the council, which may hear it next year or may not, but I'm thankful to my neighbors for sending me back here to do their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Yeager. And I just want to make a reminder that I was supposed to make earlier, that in our comments, we should refrain from referencing one another in our statements. So let's continue to, I mistakenly did it as well, but we should not mention either of us by name because we can't continue a continuous debate. Councilmember Borelli, you were going to speak? Or you were just stretching? I'm sorry. Okay, yes.
Brooks Powers.
Permission to explain my vote?
Permission granted.
So just wanted to put on record that I'm looking forward to the next council to be able to work to perfect this bill, one that I definitely support as a co-sponsor, as a first-generation American, but I do find to have some concerns, which I have been working alongside the prime sponsor with the hopes of perfecting this piece of legislation. And it is my hope that in the next council, we are able to take it a step further. So while I support the concept of this bill, the bill as it is written currently, I have concerns about. But for the purpose of this motion, I will vote no on sending it back to committee. Thank you.
Thank you, council member.
Thank you. One last time, Cabrera. Levine. Microphone, council member, please.
Vote no on the motion.
Thank you. Moya.
I vote no on the motion.
Thank you. Perkins. Borelli.
Aye on the motion.
Cumbo.
In the spirit of wanting to know more information, in the spirit of wanting to be able to ask more questions, in the spirit of just simply saying, I do not have enough information to know how this particular bill will affect our city. And I want to be clear, the decision that we are making today is going to have national repercussions. What we are doing today is going to set a precedent throughout the nation. Are we moving in the right direction? Yes. Have we implemented as thoroughly as we should have? The answer is no. And I reserve the right to say we need to be at the drawing board to make better informed decisions. As I said before, want to know specifically how it is going to impact African American communities. This is a significant community in this city and this nation. All across the United States of America, during the presidential election, battleground states were talked about during the entire election. And what that meant was, how are African Americans going to come out to save this country from what was going to become another demise of the next 4 years? We need to, following this particular vote, Black and brown communities need to come together to understand how we are going to work collectively together. Because throughout these elections, we have seen that on so many elections, the African American community has been the community to save the day. And it was mentioned by other colleagues about our Republican colleagues. African Americans as a whole, as a bloc, have remained true to the ideals of the Democratic Party. We have to make sure that we work together collaboratively, that we make sure that Black and brown communities understand that we have had many of the same experiences in this country and that we have to work collaboratively and together. We saw in the presidential election that many other ethnic groups voted Republican, jeopardizing the entire future of this country by voting Republican. No offense to my Republican brothers and sisters here, but I just want to be I just want to be clear here that my concern is how this is going to impact African American communities. We can't leave that up to circumstance. It's not a coincidence. We can't just let whatever happens, happens. This is a very vulnerable group in the city of New York that has sacrificed too much for every single person in this room. So I vote yes, because I reserve my right to ask more questions to make this a more effective bill. No one has the answer as to how this is going to impact African American communities. Nobody has the numbers, how it's going to impact the city of New York. No one knows, but the bill sounds good, so we're voting it through.
Speaker Johnson.
I vote no. Proudly vote no.
By a vote of 14 in the affirmative, 35 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, the motion is defeated.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. The council will now consider the separate vote on introduction 1867A. At this time, I ask the clerk for a roll call vote on introduction 1867A as it was amended by the Committee on Governmental Operations, the bill we were going to vote on today. Before we have this debate, I am requesting a roll call vote, since it was decoupled, a roll call vote on that bill.
Thank you.
Adams.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Ayala.
I vote aye.
Ampry Samuel. My apologies.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Barron.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Brannan.
Aye.
Thank you. Brooks Powers. Caban. Cabrera. Carr.
Nay.
Thank you. Chin.
That was a no, correct?
Yes, yes, Mr. Speaker.
I proudly vote aye. Finally.
Cornegie.
Permission to explain my vote.
Permission granted.
As I stated at the beginning of this debate, I was an original sponsor on this bill. I asked for, I voted yes on the motion to recommit because I think that there's much more work that could be done on the bill. I will be voting yes with a reasonable expectation that as we move forward and we discuss issues around voter disenfranchisement in the Black community, as we support or don't support Stacey Abrams as she fights for voter rights for Black people, as we continue to fight for the full restoration of the Voter Rights Acts that were put in place for Black communities, that I can get the same support going forward. Now, I won't be a member of this body, but that fight for myself and my family will never stop because I think it's essential and it's part and parcel about true democracy in the city. So my vote is yes, with a reasonable expectation that everybody on this body, all my progressive colleagues, will stand in solidarity with me as I fight for full restoration of the Voter Rights Acts, as I fight for an end to voter disenfranchisement across the country as it relates to Black people. Thank you. I vote aye.
Thank you. Dharma Diaz.
I vote aye. Would I like to explain my vote or just make a comment, if that's okay, Majority Leader?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to begin by thanking you all for this healthy conversation. As a community advocate who's worked with many residents that would have liked to have been able to vote, it's a historic day. As for African Americans, I've made it my business to take time to go down south, to take that walk, to try to have a better understanding. As a Puerto Rican, as a woman, I get it. To the nonprofits that are out there that by my accord abuse of residents, today's a new day. It was hard for me to walk the walk and canvas and hear my people that advocated with me for over 20 years when I had to cross the street from City Hall advocating for new schools to tell me that they were not a deciding factor on who they supported at the hierarchies in their organizations made that decision for them. I hope they understand. Para mi gente, quiero que entiendan que hoy es un día bien difícil para nosotros. Hoy, como concejales, pero que entiendan los residentes que el poder es de ustedes, que no se dejen de abusar más nada, ¿ok? De lo que deciden por ustedes. Su sudor vale algo. Thank you.
Gracias.
Ruben Diaz. Councilmember Ruben Diaz Sr.
Can I get a question? I was out of my office. What are we voting for now?
We're voting on the bill itself, so whether you support the bill or not.
All right, I vote no.
All right. Thank you. Dinowitz.
I vote yes.
Drum.
I vote aye because, as in the words of Langston Hughes, this will bring America closer to being America again. Thank you.
Eugene.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Feliz.
I vote aye, and briefly, I just feel compelled to say that we've seen and heard different perspectives from people of all backgrounds. I just feel compelled to say that we shouldn't throw the word racism anytime that we have a disagreement with others, regardless of how difficult the issue is. Thank you.
Thank you. Gennaro.
I vote no. I wish to be associated with the comments of Councilmember Feliz. I vote no.
Councilmember Gennaro, can you clarify that? You have your vote?
Oh, I'm saying that I'm voting no on the bill.
Thank you.
But I want to be associated with the comments of Councilmember Feliz. I agree with his comments, but I'm voting no on the bill.
Got it. Thank you. Gibson. Councilmember Gibson.
Colleagues, on behalf of my district and many residents and families who will benefit from this, both from the West African and the Latas, I vote yes.
Thank you. Jonai.
Pass.
Gordenchik.
I vote no on 1867, aye on the rest, and I welcome my new colleagues. I'm not going to be here much longer. but I welcome
We're just voting on the single bill. The bill was decoupled.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. I vote no on 1867.
Thank you. Holden.
I vote no.
Kalos.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Koo. Councilmember Koo. Kozlowitz.
No.
Lander.
Request permission to explain my vote.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. I do deeply appreciate debate on the floor of this body. I think it is good for us to have really strong debate and disagree respectfully here. I will say, I think it is profoundly disingenuous, however, to make it seem as though if immigrants just work hard, they could become citizens in this country when Republicans in Congress are denying 11 million Americans a path to citizenship and have been doing so for decades. If we lived in a country where citizenship was offered to all who want it, then it might make sense to say on the floor of this body that that should be an expectation of voting. But in the country we are living in, where immigrants are denied basic human dignity and yet expected to perform jobs that are essential to us through this pandemic, I find it a really disingenuous argument. We are voting to expand municipal voting rights to our immigrant neighbors, in big part because they have been denied a path to citizenship by Congress, and that is why I'm so proud of what we're doing today. I will also say, I think this is not only profoundly morally right, I think it's economically smart for New York City to be a place where immigrants can come and participate fully in our economy and in our democracy. It heralds a strong and bright future for this city, which has always been an immigrant city, which brings people in and enfranchises them. That is how our whole city thrives, not only our immigrant neighbors, but every single one of us. So with bright hope for the future of inclusive multiracial democracy in New York City, I vote aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Levin.
I vote aye, proudly.
Levine.
I vote aye, proudly.
Thank you. Lewis.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Mizell. Hang on, Councilmember.
No.
Thank you. Menchaca.
Permission to explain my vote.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Majority Leader, and thank you to this incredible council. We are two states away from ending this session, and I feel, I have a lot of feelings right now, but I just want to say thank you for listening, for speaking your truth. I hope that you feel heard, and I know that we don't always agree, but I want to get to the core of so many pieces that I heard that I felt were connected to things like fear. That is what will prevent us from moving forward as one city, our city, our vote. What I kept being reminded of are the immigrant communities that came out without being asked during Sandy to rebuild. The day laborers across the entire city came out and rebuilt our city. They weren't asked to do that. Even when their homes were broken, they came out. It's time and time again I've seen immigrants come out and say no to atrocities that they have been experiencing, like the Los Deliveristas. They have come out and said we need changes in the law. Most of them could not vote. These are the people that will continue to make our city better, and they will be reflected in our institutions of government as representatives because of that vote, which will be a better city. That's why I'm saying yes, but I also want to say thank you to all the incredible coalition that held strong over the years. New York Immigration Coalition, thank you for your leadership on this, and the Black Institute, CPC, Mixteca in my district, so many of you that have been doing the work on the ground to do things like participatory budgeting so that we can experiment about what happens when we bring people out of the shadows and into government to make decisions in our own neighborhood. At one point, more people voted in PB than the people who voted in the Democratic primary to elect me as the city council member. That's the energy that's waiting. And I want to associate my remarks with Brad Lander, who spoke about people who are waiting right now, but because of the reform that is not happening at the federal level, they wait and they languish in the shadows. And today, we're going to bring the light and we're going to bring the love, and I want to say thank you. I vote aye.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Miller. Councilmember Miller only on introduction 1867A. We'll come back. Moya.
Permission to explain my vote?
Permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. To me, this is a very personal vote that I take today. I'm the proud son of Ecuadorian immigrants. I have the distinction of being the first Ecuadorian American to ever be elected to public office, not just in the state of New York, but in this country. And that would not have been possible without the hard work and effort of my parents. Voting is a very important tradition in our household. We always go vote as a family, and there's always been one family member that's never had the opportunity to vote for their son, and that's my mom, who's right here. And this is going to be for the woman that has given me the opportunity to be in elected office. And this one is for my ma, and for about 900,000 immigrants that have truly made a difference in the lives of so many here in New York. I proudly vote aye. This is for my beautiful mother, who will get to vote for her son. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Moya. Hi, Mom.
Thank you. Perkins. Powers.
I vote aye. Congratulations, everyone who will now be able to participate in very important decisions about the city's future. I vote aye.
Thank you. Reynoso.
Pass.
Got it. Riley.
Aye.
Thank you. Rivera. Rodriguez.
Permission to explain my vote?
Permission granted.
We will not be here without Speaker Johnson and his team. Thank you to him, to the great Chief of Staff, Jason, Jim, Kelly, Jeff. I want to also thank my colleagues at the council who are sponsoring today's legislation, specifically Councilmember Danny Drum, Councilmember Margaret Shane. We are the three lead prime of this bill because we've been there since 2009. I was so lucky to join the council without waiting for January to be swearing. I took office immediately, and this was one of the first bills that I signed when you were the lead prime. So for me, this is a trend that has never stopped. This is a trend that started with Councilmember Barron, Councilmember Perkins. There were two great Afro-American leaders who led this fight, and we just follow them. So thank you. I also want to thank everyone, especially all the colleagues here, especially Councilmember Fernando Cabrera, the chair of the Government Operation Committee, because of his leadership in his committee and all the members of that committee. Yesterday, we passed it, and then we are here. Lastly, I would like to thank the New York Immigration Coalition, United Neighborhood Houses, the Our City Our Vote Coalition, DACA recipients, my office staff, all of them, Elizabeth, Evelyn, Tomas, Van Troy, those of you who worked so hard to be sure that we were able to take this bill to where we are today. All of you worked tirelessly to get us to this point. It is not secret that today inside these chambers, the New York City Council is making history. Many other cities across the nation as well as abroad are watching this meeting today. In one of the most diverse cities in the world, we need to ensure that there is adequate representation for all New Yorkers. That starts by expanding the scope of who is allowed to vote in our local elections. In 1867, will allow lawful permanent residents in New York City to vote in municipal elections. That includes immigrants who have green cards, working authorization, DACA recipients, TPS. The Our City Our Vote campaign has been about giving a voice to the voiceless. I know what it is like to feel like you live in the shadows, working as a dishwasher, taxi driver. I know what it's like to live with a green card and having people always look down on me because of my strong accent. Even they still believe that I have a green card, and they're so proud to have a green card. My story is the story of every immigrant in New Yorkers. Immigrants in New York City own over half of the local businesses and contribute over $190 billion to the citywide GDP. During the height of the pandemic, it was our immigrants, New Yorkers, who kept New York City running. They didn't have luxury of working from home or escaping to the Hampton or to the Hudson Valley. Over half of our frontline essential workers are immigrants, and approximately 1 in 5 are non-citizens New Yorkers. They have all earned the right to participate in our elections. It is estimated that nearly 1 million immigrants New Yorkers will be eligible to vote. That includes nearly 100,000 Muslim immigrants who will be enfranchised by this bill. Additionally, according to the Black Institute, 50% of non-citizens are from Jamaica, Guyana, Haiti, Trinidad, and Tobago alone. Furthermore, others are from Nigeria, Ghana, Mali, Congo, and other countries in Africa, others from Europe, others from Asia, others from Latin America. We are on track to write a new chapter in our city history, one that will finally include the voice of all immigrants, of all New Yorkers who hold green cards, working authorization, DACAs, or TPS. I also think it is important that we look at municipal voting as a midpoint, not as a deterrent. Giving New Yorkers with green card or working permit the right to vote for the local representative will encourage them to continue the path to citizenship so that they can later vote in federal election. In a time when many states are passing over suppression laws like we haven't seen since the Jim Crow era, New York City, and thank you, Speaker Johnson, because of your leadership, New York City must be seen as a shining sample for other progressive cities to follow. My hope is that 50 years down the line, when our children look back and we will not be here, at this moment they will see a diverse coalition of fighters who came together to change New York City history by giving immigrant New Yorkers the power of the ballot. With that, proudly, I vote aye, dedicándoselo a todos los inmigrantes que vienen a esta ciudad a hacer solamente una cosa, a trabajar duro. Sí se puede.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Rose.
Thank you. I vote aye.
Thank you. Rivera.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Rosenthal.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Salamanca.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Traeger.
I'm going to abstain for part of the reasons I mentioned earlier.
Thank you, Councilmember. Ulrich.
Thank you. I vote no on introduction 1621A, 1867.
Just voting on the single bill right
I
now.
apologize. Thank you. I was on a candy run and I didn't hear that announcement. So I do have Reese's Pieces. If anybody's interested, you have low blood sugar. Just let me know. If you're diabetic, stay away. All right. So this is just on the Adonis. Yeah, I vote no. Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Valone.
No.
Van Bramer.
One of my proudest I votes, I am very proud to vote yes.
Thank you. Vernikov.
I vote no.
Thank you. Councilmember Yeager.
Come, the mic's not on.
Madam President, may I be excused to explain my vote?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, after I spoke earlier, one of my colleagues mentioned to me, you know, why do you have your back to the cameras when you're talking? And it dawned on me as I listened to the remainder and I've reflected on the last 4 years about how frequently we speak for the cameras here. Not me. I don't. I turn around. I've made it my point since we got back into this chamber is always to face my colleagues. I'm not talking to the press. I'm not talking to the viewer at home. I'm not talking to the clerks. I'm sorry that I always turn my backs on you. I'm not talking to the president of the council. I'm talking to my colleagues here. That's what we've been doing. We're a legislature. We debate. And, you know, as I watch a lot of the performance, I haven't performed. My point when I make a point is to speak to my colleagues, try to convince you I'm right. Sometimes you agree with me, most of the time you don't, that's okay. And my opposition to this bill is based on a simple reading of the Constitution. There's a basic tenet in statutory interpretation. My Latin is not as good as it used to be, I'm probably going to butcher it, but it is essentially expressio unios, excludio ulteriors. When a statute, a constitution, an ordinance, a rule, a measure says something in a category of things and doesn't say the other things in that category, it necessarily excludes those things. The minority leader did far more research than I did, and it's very clear that the Constitution of the state of New York reserves the right to vote to citizens. I didn't write the Constitution, never served on a constitutional convention. We all, members of our party, voted against or supported opposition to the Constitutional Convention. We could have gotten up there and changed it if we wanted to. That's what the Constitution says. As I said at the committee a few days ago, if we want to change and bring more people to enfranchisement with the right to vote, then there's a way to do it. Albany can do it. Very simple. We do not have the legal authority to do this. We don't. Want it? I wanted legal authority to do a lot of things that I don't have the legal authority to do. That's life. That's the oath we took. The oath to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of New York. I'm voting no on this bill. Thank you very much. And I do that with respect to the colleagues with whom I've served for the last 4 years, with respect to Mr. Speaker, with respect to the President of the Council, and even with respect to the sponsor of this bill. No matter what he says, I will still have respect for him. But the discourse here today, I think, is something that we all ought to recognize is not how a body should be. It's not what this body should be, and it's unfortunately something we've seen far too often. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brooks Powers.
Permission to explain my vote.
Permission granted.
So first, I want to take a moment to congratulate my colleague, Councilmember Rodriguez, and the coalition of advocates behind this bill who worked very hard to empower our immigrant communities and give them a stronger voice in local government. As a first-generation American, I recognize this bill as a major step for justice and representation for these vibrant communities. And when I say as a first-generation American, I don't mean something far removed. I mean both my parents born in another country, siblings, current green card holders. So this is an issue that is very near and dear to me. However, I have been working to have a concern raised by the constituents who have sent me here to the council to represent them address for almost over a month. And that issue, unfortunately, was unable to be addressed in time for today's vote. And as a result of this concern, which is the 30-day provision that is in the bill, I will have to unfortunately abstain my vote on this bill that I felt very deeply about, and quite honestly, I felt robbed in this moment as well. But I am looking forward to taking up the mantle that my colleague is leaving behind to perfect and improve this bill in the next council, where we can address the many concerns that were raised. It's unfortunate, but this is where we can be able to improve the council in terms of our process and our ability to talk with one another about issues and really sharpen one another around these different nuances with legislation. And so that is truly a council I'm looking forward to serving in the next council. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Caban.
Very proudly vote aye, and thrilled that this is my first vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Cabrera. Jonai.
Permission to explain my vote?
Permission granted.
Thank you, Majority Leader. To my brother Udonis, your hard work has proven that success comes with hard work. And grateful that you know this was not personal in any way. And for the colleagues that do know me, thank you for the message that you are not a racist. This was an honest conversation and a debate. And I'm grateful to have been able to be a part of it without fear of being labeled or for fear of being canceled out, because that's not what government is, and that's not the roles that we have and responsibilities that we have to our constituents and the positions and the office that we hold. I'm hopeful that this bill will become a better bill with the new council. That you'll have the time to discuss and make a piece of legislation that will assure and protect New York City. This bill, in its current form, with 30 days of anyone visiting this country being able to vote, is a threat to our sovereignty. And with that, I regret that I have to vote no on this bill and would have loved to have voted yes moving forward on shaping this to be the best bill that it could be, because that's what New Yorkers deserve, that's what immigrants deserve, and that's what this city warrants from us. I vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Koo.
I vote yes.
Thank you. Miller.
I vote yes.
Thank you. Reynoso.
Permission to explain my vote?
Permission granted.
I just want to congratulate Councilmember Udonis Rodriguez and Danny Drum for the great work that they did on pushing this bill, and for our speaker, Corey Johnson. It is not an easy thing to do, and many a times in our council, in 4 years in his speakership, we've taken on tough votes. He never did it because it was easy. He always did it because it was right. So I just want to thank you, Corey, for putting this together, and to all of the immigrants that have come to this country to contribute. You finally are going to get an opportunity to choose who represents you. And I couldn't be prouder today to vote aye on this bill.
Thank you. Borelli.
Thank you. I vote no.
Cumbo.
This is perhaps the hardest vote that I've taken since I've been in the council, and I just want to address, as we're not addressing members by name, it was mentioned here that many of the communities that will benefit are many of our African immigrants from the Congo, from Mali, from Nigeria. But according to the research that I saw at the Black Institute, the African community is negligible in terms of the level of, this is not going to amplify their voices in a meaningful way in the city of New York. According to the Black Institute data that was also given to me, the top 3 ethnic groups that will benefit from this is the Dominican Republic, China, as well as Mexico. Those are the 3 groups that are going to benefit the most from this in a very substantial way. The other groups that my colleague mentioned are not even in the top 10. And my concern again is how the African American community will fare in a situation where our numbers are not amplified in any meaningful way. So I continue to be concerned about that. At Dem Conference, I also mentioned, just honestly speaking, you know, this is a conversation that the Black and Latino community has to have. It has not happened because it's not politically correct, but it's a conversation that needs to happen. I continue to remain concerned, as I read in Dem Conference, about during the presidential election, how many of our Latino brothers and sisters voted Republican for President Trump. That concerns me of activating this particular bill because of that reason. I understand that's not politically correct. I understand that people are going to have challenges with it, but I need my Latino brothers and sisters to know that they are African brothers and sisters. You are African, and we need to move forward collectively as African people and to stop the divisions. We are not black and brown. We are multiple shades of black. And I'm just going to conclude with that, and I'm going to say, on this bill, I vote no. I encourage the next council to vote on a bill that's better, that is more constructive, that brings all the different multiple perspectives into play, that answers key questions on how it's going to impact the city of New York and how it empowers all communities moving forward. Thank you so much. I turn it over back to Speaker Johnson.
Speaker Johnson.
I proudly vote aye on this bill. Congratulations to Councilmember Rodriguez and to all the advocates. Today is a historic day for New York City and for the United States of America. Congratulations, Adonis.
By a vote of 33 in the affirmative, 14 in the negative, and 2 abstentions, Intro 1867A is hereby adopted. Congratulations, Councilmember Rodriguez.